holding Thunderdome. It's mating them. Stunned up. They're all grouped up. Oh my goodness.
Segura o dado. Já se livra de dois. Ele quer mais. Ele pressiona na corda.
Welcome back to week 6 of VCT Americas and our second match of the day between Cloud9 and MiBR. I'm Mimi, and joining me at the desk is Mel Silly. Both of you here. You're one now. Vans, how you doing?
I feel like I've cosplayed Yoru and just TP'd here and get ready to have fun at the analyst desk with both of you. So I'm doing great.
Have you teleported, Mel?
From like 5 feet away to this desk.
That's impressive, too.
Like a chamber TP at this point.
Nice.
That's brutal. Don't do chamber like that. Let's talk, though, about the first team in our matchup today, which is Cloud9. Last week, they absolutely dismantled 100 Thieves and are now heading for playoffs and looking for the number 2 spot. Vansili.
Yeah, this is the crazy part. I think now it's pretty crazy that week number 6, for me, it feels like Cloud9 are actually the saviors of NA. They were plugging things around from like week number 2 when they had this new roster. You saw that they were playing super aggressive on week 1 versus EG, but then slowly but surely, you always see like this great improvement of protocols around C9 as you move from week to week, and see them at the top of the board right now for NA.
I think it's really interesting to see how they've come week to week, the improvements and strides that they're making. And obviously a lot of people put, of course, a lot of value on MC and Cooper, but the players themselves, at the end of the day, it does come down to player development, relies on the players to actually take in that feedback, ditch the ego, and just work on themselves. And like the team has no ego from what I've heard. They are like super, a lot of feedback during practice.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of it goes really well. So seeing that and seeing those strides week to week is just awesome to watch.
I actually love that too, because it comes down to like the synergy that they were having as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you look at lower third here, right now they're sitting with the best defensive-sided win rate in the league. I think in particular, the way that they mid-round on that side of the map has been so good for them now.
And I think it's interesting because normally defense, teams that are good on defense, it kind of exposes like what teams individually needs like a bit more to work on. At least like for attack, you can set the pace, you can pack mentality, you can like run at people, which is a bit more based like around the util, that you can get kills just a purely team play. But on defense, every individual needs to be hyper aware of what gaps are open, when do I need to rotate to help my teammate, what gaps do we want to leave open on purpose, when do we want to regroup, what stack we want to hit like at the end, or what site we want to stack at the end of the round. And the fact that they're this good on defense shows that how well and how far these players have come from week 1. And actually, I think C9 is really proactive on their defense. Zeppa especially, his flashes and his info gain is crucial and does a lot of heavy lifting for them.
The way they play around that utility is incredible. And one of the things that gives them is really great stall on the defensive side. Vens, I know you had one round from their Lotus game last week, highlighting what they do with that Neon.
Yeah, this is going to be fun because now, remember I was just casting the other match and I was saying Sentinels, they're like kind of sweating into their game. Now it's my turn to sweat here to watch this this Telestrator, as I'm going to try to do it for the first time, but it's definitely to talk about the stalls. You talked about how we do have a very strong defense from C9, how you understand the protocols, understand the gap. Look at how they're currently setting things up here for C9. They're looking for the pressure into C-Long at first, where that Neon is actually a huge component to how they want to play the defense because of the amount of stalls that you have. But look at how we want to set up here for Sentinels. We're looking for a lockdown play because you have it available for Pankata. So they're going to set that up at the default spot here towards that B side to open things up. The control comes in for C9, and then once they've realized, okay, there's no pressure coming in from Sentinels, how do we find that information? Continue with the one-ways to block that area towards the C-Long. But let's look at this lockdown. Look at that rotate that comes across now from, full zoom screen. There you go. You see the rotation coming out here from Leaf. And what he does here with that key component of that Neon is that he's actually able to do a lot of concusses into the B main. What that does is that it stalls Sentinels and doesn't allow for them to actually move into the site. So when you're actually not moving into the site, you have the components of the flash coming out as well from Zeppa. And you don't really have any real setup here for Sentinels after all. Look at the amount of utility, too, from that nanostorm that's being placed around by C9. Now, what happens is, how do you want to continue into this strategy? Because after all that stall, Sentinels are still going to move into the site. So now that they take over this B site, here's that cool part, right over here. So look now at this position right over here from this player being Jake. That paranoia is going to be very huge right now for that player because that's going to help here C9 flood back into the B site. Well, as I as I was going to actually show that the round is going to be over. Exactly. So you know what I'm trying to say. So he has a great Paranar, great utility that allows C9 to really flood back into the sites and fight back here against Sentinels, which also was the problem that Sentinels had against EG today too. Like trying to set up into their pulse plan has been the hard stuff, but it's also thanks to C9 of how they're able to flood so well on these retake plays.
Yeah.
Damn, that was rough.
You know what? For someone your age, really impressive, honestly. Learning new technology.
At 39, I could still breathe and talk so much. That's pretty crazy, right?
It's tough. You're learning. It's fantastic stuff. But Mel, a big piece of the puzzle in that round he was breaking down was the utility from Zeppa. He's so impactful with finding info in the mid round, and he's playing so well individually as well.
100%. I think when I look at Zeppa, first of all, the first thing I think about Zeppa, I'm sorry, this is not to undermine anything else he's done in his entire career, but his stinger, I swear he has to lead the world in stats for having the most kills on a stinger. Something about like Cloud9's force buys as well and their half buys where this guy has a stinger and he's good for like 2 or like winning the round off of it is insane. But yeah, you have to give kudos to the information he gets. I wonder if the other team is going to be able to like kind of key in, if MiBR is going to key in on those timings.
Yeah, it is really good stuff from him. But for a bit more on the success of Cloud9 thus far this year and how they keep cool under pressure, let's hear from Coach MCE following last week's match.
I mean, player development only goes so far. Like, these players were already good to begin with. It's about giving people a chance. And a lot of people, like, that came from the other game we had played, including myself, Zelsis, Leaf, Zeppa, like, they were just as good in the previous game and never got a chance, or they got one chance that wasn't a good chance. So it's like there's certain characteristic traits that you look for, and there's a lot of tier 2 and tier 3 players that would surprise people if they were given the chance, but it's of those guys who doesn't have the ego, who wants to work, who wants to be a part of something, you know, bigger than themselves, and that's what you have to look for. I'm a very emotional coach. I'm an emotional person. Like, somebody once told me I hate losing more than I like winning. And I think that's a pretty accurate representation. So I'm not the cool, calm, collected coach. I'm the guy that's losing my shit, basically, when I'm doing stuff. So I have to try to calm myself down when I talk to them because I'm pretty upset most of the time watching matches. But I try my best not to let that show too much.
Mel, you're someone who's worked with a lot of different coaches in your career in Valorant, but it seems like the MCE is one of the few who's been consistently able to get the best out of his players and develop talent that previously was really unknown.
I feel like I can relate a little bit to the players on C9 with having that emotional, like kind of strict and hard coach. But honestly, that is what has worked best for me in my career, and I'm sure they can relate with their recent successes. Having a coach that can tell you like, this is dog shit, we got to do something different, or like, being really hard on you on scrims. I think it's mostly the team culture that he talked about. In that interview, he's talking about players not having egos, being open to feedback and stuff like that, and that I feel like really brings them over.
Yeah, well, he was talking about some of the younger players, but one of the veterans that we already mentioned for his utility play was Zeppa. But beyond what he adds to this team for his utility and his assistance in calling, he's also just been so good individually, Vans.
Yeah, I think just as an individual player, really understanding how he could position himself to get the best value, not only off his utility, but his guns, man. Yes, you talked about the Stinger before, Mel, of how he's good with that, but just everything around this player has been huge. And you're seeing the evolution of Zeppa from when he actually first started this game into now. Such a deep flex player that could go from a duelist role into a raise into now being able to play this guy. And there you go. This is his raise here on Fracture. This guy is a complete unit when it comes down to how much value he brings into a C9 roster.
I think it's really interesting, too, seeing his growth. Just honestly, he's always been so good on these flex rolls. I feel like he's always been like that, yet somehow he's still finding ways to get better. I feel like if you're playing a team like C9, sorry, if you're playing against Zeppa, you can never be safe with, like, nearby any smoke. Like, let's say you're hitting a site and there's just a smoke. You can never be safe. Like, he could pop out. They could be flooding off of it. Having that kind of player to have that kind of threat is insane.
The depth of this roster is so impressive because we talk about them and you can highlight Zeppa, you can highlight Jakey, but this is also, like, the team that has Leaf on it. They're just so good thus far this season. But to turn our face to the other squad facing them today in MiBR, they've had a bit of a rougher go of things. Last weekend, their struggles continued, and they had a really rough match against Fury. It looked like they had an opportunity in map number 1, but after that, it really went downhill, Vance.
Yeah, and even when you started off the game here from the game plan that they had from MiBR versus Fury, it looked really good. A cohesive unit, the game plan of trying to get the executions, the map control. I remember, like, utility that they were using using just to clear out corners to make sure that nobody's playing into like these ready angles on Pearl, and then the execution was perfect. But where it fell flat was on the defense here at this point for Furia, for MiBR, sorry, when it comes down to, you know, losing the pistol. And not only losing the pistol, not converting from their gun round into the bonus of their opponents. And that just makes it such a hard fight for them to do, a hard hill to try to come back and fight and tie the game up.
How do you get out of this rut for a team, though? Because this is now their third series in a row where both maps they've just been stomped. This is a squad who, not too long ago, was upsetting NRG.
And that's a big detail to point out here, is that upset versus NRG, if there's anything you can cling to as an MiBR fan or player, the one thing is that, hey, we've done it before against NRG. We have that potential. We have that skill ceiling. We just need to find a way to maybe lift that skill floor and get it up.
Yeah. They will have to do that. But one guy who can help to maybe add a little bit of a voice to this team is their world champion coach, Bazooka. After their match last weekend, he tweeted this on out, talking about the game versus Furia, where he says, GG to Furia, we are working hard, we are following the objective. There's no excuse. We are being unrecognizable, and we need to improve. I mean, this squad is in such a tough position right now, Vance. And I think the coach and the players all know how poorly they're playing.
Exactly. I almost feel it's like the same storyline of what we just talked about and touch upon with MC, for example, where he's the type of coach that hates losing more than seeing himself win. And that's probably Bazooka at this point when you're trying to get, you know, a team that comes together. Heat was supposed to be a quote-unquote a top 21 player back in like 2021, 2022, and they're not getting the best value out of him. They're not setting him up well enough. You just have to figure out where are those gaps, where it doesn't work out for them. And it really seems like it comes down to those pistol rounds.
Mm-hmm. Those pistol rounds, but I also feel like Bazooka, like you said, world class, has literally won a championship, literally champions as a coach. And I think the fact of the matter is, I think they're going to start really implementing his game plan. So we talked about it a bit, you know, before, that after the first game plan doesn't work out, it looks really shaky. If plan one doesn't work, it looks really shaky because he has to take a timeout, and it's a matter of them implementing that game plan in the server that can really take them. It's
all those unforced errors when they get under pressure that have really been biting them in the butt throughout these last few games. But there is still hope. You can still cope about this squad making playoffs. Even though they've had a rough season, they're not out of it yet. And after Cloud9, I mean, they have winnable games versus EG and 100 Thieves. If they can recover this week, play a better game, there is still a chance, fans.
Do we think that they actually have a chance for MiBR after seeing how EG played today, though? Like, that's going to be a very, very tough match to try to come up against. And even 100 Thieves, yes, 100 Thieves may be underwhelming to where they're supposed to be at the beginning when we start off the season. Or supposed to be at the top, maybe favorites for a lot of the analysts or fans of the Americas so far. But this is still two very tough opponents for MiBR.
Yeah, well, now I want to pivot our attention and talk about something a little bit more serious. We've been talking about the players, the games, all that. But what really matters, what really is important out there on the field is getting some good, high-quality daps for our players. It's all about building teamwork. It's all about getting that proper fist bump. So we're going to go back and rewind through some of the highest and lowest moments of Americas thus far and give it a little bit of a ranking under your seats. You guys both have a little panel there, so we can write our reviews in a second. On a scale of 1 to 10 is how I want you guys to rate each and every one of these clips and kind of discuss what they did well, what they didn't do well. And let's start things off with a team that we just got to take a look at in EG with Georgimo and Demon 1.
Okay.
Break this one down for me.
Ooh,
all right.
That's a solid one.
Dude, that was
okay.
Do you see they're both on the same page, too? It's like instantly the grip all the way around.
That was actually, hold on.
Is there any room for improvement? I mean, Jaw turns around 180. He has another one ready as well.
I saw even like the little like waves off the shirt, off the contact, and the impact of how strong that dap was into the back. That's definitely an 8 for me.
You got that a 9, Mel? Break it down.
I gave it a 9. I just felt the brotherly love in that. Just vicariously living through that image. I just felt it.
Los Angeles is notoriously the city of brotherly love, so you love to see that one. But let's talk about another one. This is from Leviathan's Nazwar and King. Okay. Oh, a little slow approach, but it's a little handshake there. That was clean, man.
I don't know, man. Nazwar looked like he was kind of like really pulling in King to make sure that he comes in for the hug. So there was like, hey, I got this. Lead into what I'm trying to do here.
I mean, were you seeing hesitation there, or what do you think that was?
I definitely saw hesitation. I'm probably sure that off that grab, too, there was probably like sweaty palms or something like that, too, off the game. Probably. So that's probably a 4 for me at this point.
4 for you both. Mel, do you agree with his takes on that one?
I feel like, I don't know if that map was like super clean or something, but it didn't seem like there's a lot of energy in that dap up, unfortunately.
I feel like you guys are underrating it a little bit, but let's move on to the next one. This is from Furia versus Cloud9. You know, you got to get the coaches in the mix, too.
Okay.
This is between, the red Bulls. Okay. MC and Frost kind of on the same page there, but if it was open, there's like a risk of spillage. I don't know, man.
Hold on, I'm trying to find that.
What? Okay. Oh, wow, what do you guys rate that one?
That was a 9.
That
was a 9 right there.
Dude, I'm honored.
That's baller stuff right there for sure.
Ball has been mentoring me, trying to get the art of the dap down. A 0. Oh, a 10.
A 1-0.
10.
That's why. Okay, that's actually thinking on your feet, because I was trying to find a way to put a 10 as well, and I couldn't, so I went to the maximum, which is, this is a 9, right? Yeah, it's a 9.
Well, I'm glad I got a good review on that one. But we have one more from the players themselves to take a look at here. This one is another coach one between Potter and Boostio for a little pregame dap.
Okay, no, that one's sick.
Oh my gosh, she's popping off. I think they have a different dap for every player on the team.
I was about to say, because I remember watching Potter when they're actually starting things off and setting up at the table, and she's kind of like that you know, that preschool teacher that had like a handshake for the 30 kids that were coming through, and she had one for every player. Unfortunately, though, I'm going to have to give a 7 onto this one, because I don't know if you saw when the fist contact, it kind of like slipped. So that's where you lose a bit of points there.
No?
I like the idea. It was looking really good. They just couldn't execute the final portion of that strat.
It's looking like EG in week 1 and 2. It's tough out there. Hopefully the daps are improve, just like their gameplay. But we'll have to see if the players on the stage have their daps down, because we're just moments away from Cloud9 and MiBR taking the stage. For a top 2 spot in playoffs and have their sights set on Tokyo. But for MiBR, their hopes are still in the hands of this game. A chance for playoffs remains, but it depends on winning against a Cloud9 that has looked almost indomitable thus far this season.
That is the crazy part. I did talk about the winning conditions, at least from the pistol rounds, where it looked kind of pretty abysmal for MiBR throughout this series, throughout the season now for the VCT Americas. And you're coming up against C9, that it was tied for the highest rate for pistol round wins at this point, and also the highest rated when it comes down to gun rounds. I don't know how you're going to be able to rate this team that's been hot from the start since the addition of now Jake and also Taruni.
We're going to need to see shades of that MiBR against NRG if they want to have any chance of taking this game. I feel like we need to see a completely different Made in Brazil today than we've ever seen, because C9 is looking like an unstoppable force, and, well, I shouldn't go with the rest of that.
This Cloud9 team, though, they have looked so incredibly difficult to prep for, because it seems like every week, even if they're playing the same map, they'll try a new composition, they'll add new layers to a comp they already have. They're so proactive at coming up with these ideas week by week.
Yeah, that's exactly it, because we talked about the puggy rounds from like the week 1 and 2, and then it comes down to, okay, they don't have to play as aggressively into like aggressive trap plays on pistols, on Ascent, for example. Then against Sentinels, it's just going to be, okay, protocol. It's a team that plays very slowly. We can wait until the last 20 seconds until Sentinels tries to move into the site to plant, then overflood them with utility and play the retakes. I think MCE and Cupid are doing an excellent job with this roster right here. I don't know if it's like another bandana buff that you have, for example, with Boaster here, but Cupid right there bringing that up for the team, and you have a very strong IGL here from Rooney.
I heard that British Airways actually took Boaster's banner and they
Really?
stole it. Do you think that somehow Cloud9 got their hands on it?
Are you kidding?
Is it possible? Is there a conspiracy here?
Is this real? I actually can't tell, genuinely.
I actually think he lost it.
Did he actually lose it?
Yeah, I don't know. They might not win, don't they?
We need to raid the Cloud9 headquarters real quick. Let me go back undercover. Hold on.
All right, you're going to have to take a look at this one. But for MiBR here, a lot of the issues seem like in themselves. Sure, you can do a lot of prep work, but similar to what we were talking about with series number 1, so many of these MiBR problems just seem fundamental.
I completely agree. I think if MiBR want to take this, it's really just finding that inner confidence, kind of ignoring the fact that C9 looks super incredible, but not ignoring it fully to the point where you discount their gameplay. They're going to need to find holes because they do exist. It's going to be difficult, but if there's any time to do it, it's now.
Exactly, and Moritz is definitely the player and the IGL that could do this for the team. We've seen in week 1 and week 3 of him like doing some great clutch rolls, great lurk opportunities as well to really turn around over and aside to give some sort of hope for MiBR. But what it really comes down to as well is how can you, once again, set up a player like Heat so he could try to get as much of the opening kills as he can. I think last week he went like 6 and 13 in terms of the attempts that he was trying to do against his opponents. We need to turn that up.
He struggled to get involved in those opening fights, but we're into the map vetoes, and Cloud9 are starting us off on Split. This is a map that both teams have been very willing to play now.
I think Split is honestly kind of a straightforward map. I'm not sure if it's a popular opinion, but really it's one of two things. It's mid default, A defaults, B hits thrown in, A hits thrown in. That sounds like a lot. I promise you, from like a attack POV, but at the same time, that's a map where I think C9 picked it. They're going to be starting on attack, but if they get on that defense, if MiBR let these rounds slip, they might be in for some trouble.
And Lotus is one that scares me for MiBR. I'm very surprised that they're actually picking into it, because you were just talking about on that Telestrator, this neon comp for Cloud9. They're one of like only 2 teams I can think of that run it, and they're so incredible at it.
Yeah, I think that for me to look at MiBR and especially what VZK could actually do with this team is he actually had the opportunity to lead a champion team like Loud onto this map and do very well. So there are some things that he could actually learn and that he could keep from what he's done before, and also on this time how to counteract and how to anti-strat. He's definitely the type of coach that could do that as well against C9.
Well, hopefully we do get to see that bind later in the series, but let's focus up on map number 1, Split. Mel, you said it's pretty formulaic in the strats you expect on the attacking side, but we have seen some variance in compositions on it thus far in Americas.
And it looks like we're gonna get the Astra. Oh, Marie's is on the sky.
So they're changing
Jets?
the jet. Do you think this is a double duelist with JZ?
Oh, okay, I actually do like this change, and they're starting on the defense. It's going to be interesting to see how this comp gets a lot of value on the defense, but ultimately, I think if MiBR want to take this, it's going to come up to a lot of like off-tempo, kind of like weird plays that are going to need to catch Cloud9 off guard, because their proactivity is big, but if you can catch them off, I think that's the only shot you got.
I was just looking at the player cams too, and it seems as though when we're actually picking the agents, Zelsus is already ready to go. Maybe something that they're expecting to play against a double duelist, and they know how to play it against this right now. I mean, they're a very strong team, Cloud9 in general. I mean, they've had great agents, great compositions to have a very deep map pool too. I don't know so far what real weaknesses we've seen out of Cloud9 from like week 2 to now week 6 now. So we'll have to find out if MiBR was able to pick that.
A new comp for MiBR. We'll have to see if it's enough to pull them out of their rut and maybe move on the direction of an upset against Cloud9. We'll get this series underway as we toss things over to the casters, Doug and Bala.
Thank you, Mimi. Yeah, this feels like it has the potential to be an interesting match, but stats and really everything, history, you think about how these teams have performed as of late, this feels like this is heavy Cloud9, Bala.
Yeah, this is definitely a tough series to look at if you're an MiBR fan. They've lost the last 3, haven't won a map in those last 3. So, yeah, you're looking to see a good MiBR maybe towards the end of the season, but Cloud9 is looking better than ever at this point. And they're 5-1. They're looking to hold on to the second seed that they currently have and looking to keep the pressure up on Loud.
It's just crazy to think, too. It seems like they just continue to get better every week. Once we think we've seen how good Cloud9 can be and the youngsters on the squad and the coaching staff around, they show us another wrinkle and they seem more and more impressive.
Going back to Split as well, which really turned heads against the team who's in first in the league right now. When Cloud9 played against Loud, they took that map against them. Same comp here, and they're going to go out on B. Missed Satchel, though. But actually, does pull out the grab well, so there's still a lot of room here to pivot again if you're Cloud9.
Grab the orb, make their way out the second time around. Zeppa's already gotten back sight. Frenzy's already finding some value too, but decent response from Muri's.
Last player
But Heat's left alone.
And it's funny, the reason why Muri's is there in the first place is because of that false start that Zeppa had.
Spike planted.
Heat just not fast enough either. 1v2 now. Does have a ghost. Both of these players are one tap to the head.
Leaf's just gonna keep daring him to land the shot, challenging him to deliver when his team needs him to the most. Time low, though, as it continues to chip away. They lined up for him, but Leaf cleans him up. Cloud9 get the pistol.
And that's one of those things that Cloud9 have just improved on over and over every single week, is those little movements in towards the tail ends of rounds where you see two players just hip to hip, able to trade out and time things really well, understanding where Heat's going in that situation. And again, with that false start, they're still able to get the round. Speaks to the flexibility of Cloud9. Now onto the anti-eco, which MiBR have struggled with in the past. But they have had some eco success despite the massive losses that they've sustained in the last 3 matches that they've had. From Super Weekend to last week against Furia.
Look at that ace stack, bro. Everyone. 3 of them playing on site, and the other 2 close by. I mean, they're gonna, if they commit to this V hit, it's entirely vacant.
They're gonna be surprised.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Leaf end up popping his Trailblazer and just seeing the rest of the site open. And they could even delay these stars now.
Recalling my phone.
Clears B main as well for Runa to come in. And yeah, they were planning to leave the spike a little bit while they were exploring, but it's a free site. MiBR just committing to that stack, and they have no information about what's going on. Heat might have just heard it. Yep, everybody coming through. And they also peeked A main.
Planted.
I wouldn't be surprised to see nobody dead this round, other than obviously the MiBR players to the spike. But
toxin screen down.
Like, I'm looking at Heat. He's got the shorty. Like, they're looking for exits, and Cloud9's not going to give him a little bit. Maybe Rooney will want to chase.
I mean, we may have a round where neither player saw the opponent at all. Like, not one player saw the other.
That's ridiculous.
Wild.
I think it. Oh no, Leaf is looking.
Oh,
Leaf
don't
is
ruin
looking.
it. Leaf.
Of course, Leaf is hunting for anti-ecos. He's hunting for the eco frags. No way.
All good. They still never saw each other.
Zeppa, where are you going? He knows
They
it's a
still
trap
never
now.
saw each other.
He might die to the spike now, actually. And they all do go down. I was worried there for a second that MiBR might not all go down.
And I love how disappointed the crowd was.
Yeah. Yeah, literally though, that was ridiculous.
That's what happens when you gamble. Not nearly the same approach this time for MiBR, as they have weapons, they have full rifles and full armor, so much more of a spread approach to this round.
And you do see the Viper, FRZ, getting ready to put his orb down in mid, much like the rest of the scene who's running the double controller. Cloud9 opting not to do that, by the way. And the big key was finding ways to counter it, and he does, but he does not check his corner, so Zeppa there, not fully experienced with the possibilities of setups that you can go for, and might react in the B because of it. And that smoke actually does obscure Jake peeking that.
RGL's flashed up, he's stunned up, he's taking some damage too, but manages to still get a kill onto Zelsis.
Good hold.
Yeah, very good hold.
On the bonus too, which both these teams fantastic at. Leaf trying to find his way back in. He has that Vandal. Remember, he went down last time and still bought.
Last player standing.
All under Rooney now in this 1v4 with the Spectre. We'll get one step closer to having that Rolling Thunder online. Make it 2, actually. 2 steps closer. But MiBR take the round.
Instantly you see that double controller just walking out to the box and Zeppa not clearing that. I mean, Cloud9 have only played this map once against Loud way back so early in the season. I'm wondering if they haven't been stressing it as much as they might have wanted to going into this pick against MiBR. Because you see there, Zeppa 100% when he's satcheling, he should be clearing that corner, but they want to get the value with the stun that's going out too, so. And he's the only one to follow up on it as well. There's no double duelist. It's such a different comp.
Dangerous peek there from FRZ. And then the deep flash. And you see some of the adaptation already. Zeppa expecting some pressure and from Mail, but still chooses to challenge FRZ and loses the fight.
And that's great play from FRZ too.
Very good.
Backing down the rope, avoiding the stun, avoiding the flashes that are going in against him, and then just coming right back up where Zeppa does not expect you to re-challenge. I think MiBR right now. Obviously 2 rounds in a row, Zeppa goes down first, but because he's one of the only tools that Cloud9 have to take these engagements. If they're able to consistently shut them down, you're looking at a very interesting split game here.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to really gain traction in that situation. As we're even seeing in this round, right? Like, Zeppa's already dead, and you're going to be waiting for some of the utility to come back up, like Rooney's fault line that just came up, but you don't have the same go.
And he's backing so far away. I was thinking this is still a very real possibility here for Cloud9, because Rooney's one off his ult. If he can get a kill, that changes things, but the stun is so good.
Dude, and it feels like it takes forever. You've got the Rolling Thunder into that as well.
Oh, he took the orb late there. Very interesting.
Placing swarm grenade.
Was also really patient by Celsius. It looks like he took his time with the player that was stunned up, made sure there was no one else playing back behind pillar before taking the free kill.
They've got room to work with, but they got to be worried about Heat, who he smoked the turret off.
Whoa.
And he decapitates Rooney afterwards. Great response from MiBR.
And there, Cloud9 actually threw a couple of different things that were very difficult to deal with. I think when you're considering what the next steps here for Cloud9 are, it's to take that orb and go for a breach hold exec with Rooney. But instead, they walk out dry. They deal with that. FRZ does go down to the stun while he's playing up in heaven, but Rooney takes the orb late to make it so they don't plan for the breach hold. If he takes that orb, all of a sudden they're all backing off of sight. So it was pretty nice from Cloud9, but MiBR just still handle it so well, fluidly. Sting around here, Cloud9. This is, I mean, most of the time we're writing this round off, but Cloud9 33% on ecos. So this is super dangerous. It's not a boring round. And the newcomers to the team too, both continue to favor the Sheriff in these moments. It's because the Stingers are making so much space for them to actually find really easy calculated kills that they can spring into 2 or 3.
They've had many a highlight moment with that weapon in hand. Let's see if it delivers again. This time, 4 players playing across mid, standing on top of an Astra Star, and an opener for Leaf.
One down.
He bringing it back in, but he's gonna get stunned. He missed his dash.
He's in trouble. Leaf is right there.
How does he get out?
Dude, he never saw him.
Toxin screen down.
That Viper wall actually saves him. FRZ. It's a good thing he was actually saving fuel and not completely relying on that orb in mid.
My ult's ready.
And MiBR has been struggling in 4v5s this entire streak that they've had. They're one of the worst in the leagues at these situations where they lose that first kill, which speaks to how important Heat is, but he evened it out and he's still up.
They kept mid presence that entire time, invested the Seekers for a day, and now rotating back B.
I mean, they've got so much control here, too.
30 seconds left.
This is vintage Cloud9.
Just so far ahead of MiBR right now. But they are starting to show up.
Not ready yet.
Now, I need to mention again, you said this wasn't going to be a boring round given the light weaponry, and they've made it a close one. They've made it a competitive one, too. Murray's trying to turn away in the first flash, unaware of the fact that someone's literally
There's 2 players here baiting, too. They have no clue about Leaf.
There's the second. Still one more to come, though. RGL playing up in heaven. Heat's up there as well. 2v2, Rooney still has some utility. This is not a secure round for MiBR, even though they have the gun advantage.
Oh, Cosmic Divide makes this interesting, but they cannot give Zeppa a kill. He'll get his ult.
Still not on it.
This spot is so good from RGL. Oh,
Of course! A thrifty round for Cloud9.
Of course it's Rooney, who's able to snap to his head. That guy is so good. It's another thrifty. Every single week, we just get our breaths taken away by stuff like this. Rooney is insane to find that kill. That was such a good angle from RGL. I was just pointing it out. You don't expect somebody to be playing so far back in front of that wall while your other player's just full defusing. I just don't get it, man.
He's just better. Tools now for Cloud9 and a full A look. Everyone here, they have the showstopper, they have the lockdown as well. Meanwhile, you see the smattering of weapons that MiBR have to work with in this round.
Right there.
And they still have 3 members here. Heat's going to be playing in mid, so he can help apply a little bit of pressure once the call comes through. That should be the cue, really. I mean, between the Roomba and the fault line, yeah, Heat's starting to make his move. But there's an alarm bot keeping him back for now, and that should protect things for the time being. FRZ, the first to fall. You hear the showstopper used. Zeppa's gotten backside, and he's cleared everything.
Spike down A.
Ooh.
Clean up from Miris to keep it interesting.
Yeah, JZZ too. Surprised he gets a kill there while running away from the showstopper. And we still got this Vandal up.
Planted.
Talk about dangerous. Heat with the Marshal too. He can maybe find another weapon. No. There's one definitely up top heaven, but might have even fallen off. There's a lot of time to work with here, and 2 stars. There's some interesting ideas here from RGL. Just depends on if you can execute. There's the Vandal that Heat's looking for.
They've used a lot of time here. They're going to have to be quick on this move, waiting for Cloud9 to try to funnel out, and it's gotten down to a 1v1. Leaf is still healthy. Heat is not. In fact, he's far from it.
Doesn't have time either. Has to find a kill now. Oh!
Finds a kill, but he's not going to get the defuse. Is he even going to get away?
Just barely. Just barely. And I have to say, that was definitely, I mean, the couple of Sheriff kills that they got is that it was coming in while Cloud9 did a great job actually pushing those players to stay stuck in elbow. Super nice from MiBR, and RGL is playing well. That's something that I think was a key point in some of their earlier victories, especially the one against NRG. I kept saying in the losses that they had in those casts, I was saying like MiBR, it's not just Heat. I feel like a lot of these players do make up. When they're playing well, it's everybody on the team. JZZ, FRZ. Other than Mures, all of the players have had standout performances in one map or another. But it's just not reflecting in their record. And in the last 6 maps that they've lost, in some stops as well, none of the players have been showing up. So to see at least RGL heat up a little bit is a good sign if you're an MiBR fan, because again, this is a must win. Now that EG won early in the day, those 2 teams are going to be the guys who are fighting for that last tiebreaker to get into the playoffs. And now that EG won, MiBR must win to keep that record close to them, to keep it even between them at 3 and 4.
It's crazy to think we're nearing the end of the season and some of this pace matters now. Also worth remembering here for MiBR, given their comp, for them to be on defense, like you expect the other side to be their stronger one. So they just, much like in the standings race, they just want to keep it close, right? They just want to keep it competitive.
The important part too is their next match is against EG, so that head-to-head battle matters so much.
Yep.
But it doesn't matter if you lose to Cloud9, which is crazy, but unfortunately, hey, that's the way the season goes. You're not playing the second best team in the league by standings for your most important match.
Off of MiBR's timeout, they call to use the Viper's Pit instantly, and a deep flash over top gets confirmation that there is some presence close by.
If they dog him off here,
that
could be so devastating. And they do even try to use a grab ball there to catch him as he tries to walk out of the pit, but FRZ's ahead of it. And the Trailblazer actually get slowed down because of that grab ball. It's a good idea, but they're keeping the pressure on him, and he's just finding gaps. No, he's not.
That was so well handled by Cloud9.
I mean, multiple steps there.
Yeah, but like, yes, you're right. There was a lot going on there, but I think even just highlighting Rooney's fault line instantly off of the Roombot.
Yep.
Getting contact.
Yep.
I've got your trail.
And Seeker's here to fake this A hit. Does it pull? FRZ often does. Celsius get this kill against RGL. It's so crucial.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. That's going to open the sight for Cloud9. You see them all starting to rotate. Meanwhile, MiBR trying to keep ahead of it, trying to catch up as well. But they're instantly put off by this alarm bot. There's a turret. There's a nano. They're going to have to get through as well.
He did such a good job holding that space off.
30 seconds.
And now, I mean, you have such good post-plant tools, too. Celsius can just put down his lockdown at any point in this round.
Oh, not to mention, JCC used his satchels on the rotate, so he doesn't have burst to get out onto the site.
They're going to save
some chaos.
You're right. Because of that, they're going to save. JCC doesn't have a way out. They still had Heat's dash, but very important that he used those satchels to try to catch up, because he thought that Celsius was the only player. He thought that they were really trying to execute on that A site with those Seekers, but because of that pick, they were going to rotate off. He was trying to get ahead of the play.
It was still late.
Gets way too far ahead of it. And again, Celsius did such a good job with that. Alarm bot deep, the molly as well, because otherwise he could have actually challenged that spike going down. And you might have been able to get out this lockdown from Celsius. You might have been able to get out some of the ults. Point of order 2, Rooney 1 off his. Could be a factor in the next. bringing it back to that split map against Loud, Rooney was such a key factor in denying the op of Aspas. His util was so good, combined with those drones that we just saw in that last one to push off the Viper pit. You just saw Leaf use his Trailblazer, you just saw Zeppa as well with his Boombot. Combined with that, they were constantly finding out where the op was and moving around with that. Now that Heat's not really been able to get that up at all on this defensive half, he's free to use it to stun for some aggressive plays. To stun the Viper out of the pit.
Closest he's gotten to it is Marshall. Vandal this time. Trailblazers traded. Space taken by Heat. Dude, you're still seeing, it may not be the op, but you're still seeing Rooney's utility just bully people out of aggressive early angles.
And it looks like Zeppa and Zelsis might end up sending it on this B site while the Spike is rotating around with this Cosmic Divide. And MiBR is backing away, and they're not going to actually have information that this is not a hit. Zeppa again, false start, but it doesn't matter. There's nobody on this side. No way you push this.
Another instance where Cloud9 are just going to be able to waltz into the site and get whatever they want.
By
Meanwhile, they're
himself?
finding value elsewhere.
Spike planted.
Oh,
One
and they
for
know.
one. Yeah, now they've realized, guys, we've been tricked. We've been bamboozled.
And it just gives so much time for a disgusting setup here. All because of the stinking kids on that B site, Zeppa. Throwing them for a hunt.
There's still a shot at this here for MiBR, but you've got to be able to convert
not.
some of these.
It's planted for heaven.
Never mind.
All 4 players are there. And the crazy part too, JZZ just used his ult too. And they don't even realize it's planted for heaven because they had no control even close to it. What a beautiful fake from C9.
Dude, Rooney is calling circles around MiBR right now. He's making a fool out of them.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, I was worried when the hit first came through because I only saw the lockdown, and I saw 3 members of MiBR start to go mid, and okay, they may not be biting on this, or they're going to start to rotate away, but I think the investment of the Cosmic Divide was enough to really sell things.
Well, I also think that the reason why they were mid is they weren't worried about it. They thought they were already convinced themselves that it was a hit. So they were just staying out of that lockdown in heaven. And it's surprising to see them not actually go look for flanks or anything there too, because that could have given them extra information with the space that they could have had. So now, we're in round 9, they have to eco. Heat with his knives, they have a judge in JZZ's hands. But here's the breach ult now, potentially too, on this B site. They noticed what happened on that A. Zelsa's gonna rotate around. They've dry walked out so many times.
Same fault line we saw from a couple of rounds ago. But once again, B is open.
How often is this gonna happen in this game? It cannot continue.
3 times now that they're gonna be able to get into a site for free.
Spike planted.
Not a single bullet fired.
And there's some flank presence now.
Placing
But
alarm
Rooney's
bot.
putting himself in such a way that he can
Placing
secure the
swamp
round by playing on the pivot.
And that's gonna be the cue, surely. The
Yep.
Trailblazer, there's the Rolling Thunder. They just want to take the fight, but yeah, I mean, they're swinging out on this.
They don't know how many people are back here, so this is dangerous to Jake to actually explore.
They just confirmed everything, though. I mean, they know that Jet's close by. They know that Sky is close.
And they just had Leaf's Trailblazer go through spawn, so they have a safe exit path now. Just a matter if they can take it before the MiBR players get here.
One enemy remaining.
And it doesn't matter, the choke is just too hard.
Yeah.
You need the rest of the presence there. Ooh.
And a message sent.
I don't know if they need more messages sent. This score is enough of a message, I think, at this point.
They've communicated plenty. It's perhaps concerning for MiBR for a couple of reasons, right? Obviously, they're getting wall-upped right now. They look entirely lost on the map. Cloud9 have found success on both extremities without really exploring mid very much at all. But this is where, historically, we've seen Heat try to make a play and just continue to end. Right? And I worry about that a little bit here. We haven't seen it yet, but I know he has the propensity of doing it.
I don't know, he definitely has the most first engagements, like he's up there as the most first engagements for his team. Close to 38%. But I feel like that's actually, he's losing confidence in that in the last couple of matches, and you can see he's oftentimes not even close to taking that first fight. There's the first fight, and finally FRZ is able to take out Leaf, but they're actually pushing up, clearing screens with the spike here, all 4 players, and they might start to run circles again. A freeze called.
gotta be careful here. You run too many circles, you'll end up dizzy. RGL, the only one close by. And off of the freeze, MiBR confused as to what's going on.
I don't know that they can get... I would wonder to see if Zelsys goes for a fake tap. Yes. To try to bait some peeks out right now. And they just stunned and spawned, but it missed RGL. And because of that, they're going to have to commit to A. The thing here, MiBR had full information. They had them surrounded. So they knew
Spike planted.
they had to be up in screens and on site.
No ults for Cloud9 here. Just guns. You're starting to see some of that utility dropped out from Zelsys onto the site. Meanwhile, the rest of Cloud9 trying to scale forward. Heat online with the op. He's gonna have a chance in a second too, depending on when the swing comes through. Jake's timing not great. Another kill for Heat. And another round for MiBR.
Very nice. You see the swap from Cloud9 over towards A. It's somewhere where they haven't explored very often in the last few rounds. And they get punished for it. FRZ's allowed free reign of rotating off of mid in that instance, and Leaf as well to be taken down. It's huge. I mean, you've seen how often his Trailblazers used as a spearhead. And there it's not able to be used in that way. Nobody able to flash off of it too. 7-3 is still not a pretty scoreline. So MiBR need to catch that again, and potentially even more. This map is not nearly as defensive-sided as it used to be. And here we go, flash shot, but will he check the corner? No, again the same mistake from Zeppa.
This time a little bit of spam traded back. FRZ took some damage for it. But you're right, that's now twice that we've seen Zeppa try to take that space mid and get punished by the same angle. Miri's with the Seekers. They've got the Cosmic Divide too. And you're starting to see some of the rotations. FRZ, who was previously playing on that northern side, now rotating back, and it's actually Miri's who's filling that space. Seekers invested. Rooney just got his fault line back up.
Good there that Leaf flashes first, so he can deal with the Seekers without getting pushed. But there's still two players right next to him. Will he make a play for it with a stun? It looks like they did just stun, but it's not going to find the sky. And again, multiple instances of this now, too. They're really relying on that Rooney stun to find a pick.
30 seconds.
It found a target, just not the right one. Rooney trying to make a play and find the second, and he cannot.
Spike down B.
All things considered, a pretty clean. Yeah. Well, you lost two at the end there, but good round from MiBR once again.
Last round in
Plenty of money on both sides, too, as we go into this final round. That nade timing from JZZ is really nice, too. I think something that MiBR in the last two rounds have done really well is actually find those gaps when Cloud9 is slow walking and dry peeking and using utility to peek off of that. Obviously, too, the mistakes that Cloud9 made in the last two rounds. The second kill on Muri's walking up on Leaf with the stun there, that was definitely not something that was, I wouldn't call a huge mistake. It's just, you really are trying to overcommit off of the stun.
Blind.
You could definitely get both kills in that instance. And MiBR, if they bring it back this last round, this could definitely be competitive. But I'm wondering if it's the calls instead. Here, Cloud9 slowing right back down, not going for anything else. They're going for what the mid control really let them do in the earlier parts of this half.
I like this from FRZ too, playing on the other side, right? You expect that to be checked. The angle he'd been in a couple of times now, but it's been filled by Cloud9. And once again, we're seeing this contacty approach from Cloud9. Everyone close by, and a unique lockdown.
Yeah, up in mail. Nade's gonna keep him off, but they don't have B control. They don't have B main either.
And they're having to invest a Trailblazer to clear it out to get up there. No, dear.
There's three players here. Zeppa's been really off of the satchels.
Yes, he has. Yes, he has. FRZ still playing backside.
They look stunned here. They don't know what to do anymore.
This is brutal. FRZ gets 3 on that. I mean, this is still going to take heroics to snatch back, but Leaf and Zelsys might be able to do it. It's just on Zelsys now, 1v2.
20 seconds. What is that Seeker doing? Does give info on where RGL is.
He's deciding to play on side here, choosing not to get off. He spotted that, so he knows that RGL is close. But RGL still gets the kill. Last couple of rounds went real sideways for Cloud9.
Oh, absolutely. And I think back to that Zeppa round where they go for that double satchel up mid again. We saw that mistake where he doesn't clear that box. I'm wondering why even Cloud9 want to do that. Are they trying to punish FRZ in that moment? And why? What has spurred them on to do that?
7-5 half for MiBR, for Cloud9, excuse me. We're going to throw it to Mel, who's standing by at the Telestrator, to break a little something down for us.
All right, and I'm here to break down an awesome eco round approach by Cloud9. Here you see they're on a half buy, they got stingers, and I love how they approach this round. They're actually gonna go for a fake 80 fault, which in rounds like this, you wanna play unorthodox, you wanna play non-standard, you wanna play normal, you wanna catch them off guard. So they're trusting Leaf to solo fake the 80 fault while they 3-man walk up mid. This default, this fake is so good that it has already pulled heat off of the mid line. That allows C9 to take all this space for free. Meanwhile, Leaf is just getting this early control, solo faking with the flash, and Leaf actually goes above and beyond his duty. He actually gets a kill here. He actually walks up, gets this really important kill while they fully know his location. And with that map control, even though he gets this trade, this is heavily favoring the attack, and he goes back, gets his Seekers at the bottom of A ramp here, right here, gets his Seekers, and they turn this into an A fake. They know they have a lot of time because of how quickly they were able to get all that space. They pulled the A fake, and now I want to point out this really cool detail from their post plan as well. Just a masterclass by C9. This entire round has so many layers to it. So here, they're running up to B. It's a free site, not a single soul on the site. And you're going to see Leaf actually get under hell with the teammate, and they're going to double bait. Zelsis is playing an angle that can't even be seen, and he's gonna bait for his teammate. He's gonna die, so Moody's isn't even gonna clear him after he gets a kill here. And that's just, I don't even know what you can say. They're just outclassing, outplaying them in every moment of this round. And on top of that, in the post plant, they planted wide, and what you're gonna see is you're gonna see Rooney actually go back, play his flash, play his breach charge as well. Let me go to the lineup spot. They know they have Astral, so you see where Zeppa is playing here. He's playing close, and even though RGL has the read on this really good spot, Rooney wins the gunfight, and that allows C9 to get a huge economical advantage over the other team.
Dude, the Telestrator, did you see that? The graphic and everything, that was dope.
It's beautiful. Clean. I love it. Really nice insight on a crucial swing round, I think, that really hurt the confidence in MiBR, but they did have a resurgence of that. But I think it was based off of Cloud9's mistakes, bringing them back into this. They maybe think, okay, actually, hold on. They're not as good as we might think. Even though they're second in the league, even though we know this is a must-win, but a tough situation for us, they've made it close here on Split so far.
Close enough to now get on what should be their stronger side. Remember, the double duelist comp they're running on attack should be a bit more difficult to weather here if you're Cloud9.
Something that's found major success in the meta. And the interesting part is, when Cloud9 played against Loud, they were still running that Gecko way back when, and now going back to the double duelist that I think everybody has now picked up on. Almost.
Almost everyone, yeah.
Other than Cloud9 and MiBR, these were the final stragglers, and MiBR going into it with this change. Now, this Trailblazer finds a lot of information in rope, but also feints. Mel was just talking about how a lot of this early utility usage can actually serve as a feint to pull people off of their intended positions. But here, Cloud9's not intending to hold mid.
It seems like they're much more intent on holding B. They've got 3 members close by and a 4th on the way. I mean, by the time they arrive, though, the round may be over. MiBR have already lost 2. Make that 3.
Spike
There are
down.
only 2 that remain.
This flank, though, could cause a lot of trouble.
Yeah, but I mean, with a maybe once your position's spotted, though, it's just going to be so difficult to convert much more.
And it's not proactive there from FRZ
30
either.
seconds left.
He had definitely a timing. We could see that, but he doesn't. But he's also not looking to find it. If he peeks out, finds the person up on top of rafters there, that's a free kill.
Toxins going up.
And now Rooney's watching it, so the timing's way gone.
Last player standing.
Cloud9 are able to take the space, settle into the positions that
10
they want to
seconds
hold
left.
with a delay, and now they know where JZZ is. He's cleaned up. Cloud9 get to 8.
Both pistols, one from Cloud9 too. And while they have had an eco round win, I don't think this game is going to require many more if they continue on here. And again, these two teams are very good at bonuses, so we're looking to see if Cloud9 can get there and convert. I think one of the things we saw in that first half is a reinvestment, which not many teams do on the bonus, but it's definitely come to prominence. So how do they keep as many up in this anti-eco as possible to make that bonus really, really good? Or does MiBR have something up their sleeve to even prevent them from getting there?
Really aggressively peeking into the angle, and he's overstayed his welcome.
And look at this wall. They didn't really consider this. This wall is for sure going to be a B hit. That brings him back into it, but they only recovered a Marshall, so Rooney not too worried about that, and the shorty finds nothing too. The kills are coming way fast back into it for Cloud9.
And just way too fast for MiBR to handle. Yeah, Rooney had a mistake, if you will, at the very beginning of the round, but well handled by Cloud9 afterwards.
I think that wall actually gives so much room for spam through. Zeppa with a long-range stinger kill there onto Heat, who went for that dash deep. Here's the bonus. Rooney's still not investing. This is the moment where I would see, you know, Zeppa, Leaf, buy a Vandal in this case. He's just going to stick with the Sheriff. Buys it for himself.
And you showed who you could do with it in the previous half too, so. Let's see if we can do it again. Deep flash early. You see these Trailblazers once again pass right by one another.
Info gain from both sides, but the info for the attack is, or the defense is much better. They know they're in a spread default at this point. And you could tell here the setup for Cloud9 is to try to catch one of those lurkers who has a Vandal up top ramp. MiBR in this case, they have to be aware that they don't want to give him it. Problem for the setup is definitely could get caught in a pinch, but this flash should actually break up the setup and force them to fall off, and they do.
I mean, that was literally as they got up there. The timing on that flash was nuts. They just put the wall and the word back up towards A from MiBR, and off of that, they're actually rotating into mid, trying to clear some of that space out. It seems like they may want to end B here.
Yeah, that is a very important step that they just did right there to clear inside of that vent so that they can't get quick flanked.
30 seconds
There's still maybe a bit too much delay here. Yeah, Heat is past the gravity well, but now the rest of MiBR follow through.
They check Celsius,
who still has an alarm bot to hold one side, but he's still playing into it. He's still trying to challenge and not able to get one, a 1-for-1 here.
How are they doing this?
I'm not really sure, to be honest. Jake still has a stinger.
10 seconds left.
Just way too many numbers to deal with.
That's the spike right there.
And that was Leap from a distance.
And he's gonna get stunned up. He has to stick this plant. I mean, oh, it missed. It missed. He gets the plant, but not the kills. Leaf is too fast.
I mean, a sliver of hope there for just a moment.
I'm glad this game got a little patented esports Doug oh no moment out of you. But that's a bonus conversion that I honestly think MiBR had great chances with the call that they made. But what a smoke there from Jake. Look at how it allows him to pivot around the site and still able to fight the players coming out of heaven, fight the split, while not worried about the players coming out of B main.
And that's just so vintage Jake, man. I remember having a conversation with him around his play style and how he loves to scrap, right? He loves to fight as a controller. He's not hesitant to take some of these aggressive angles and aggressive positioning to try to give his team a numbers advantage, and you just saw it there.
It's things like that that combine to make Cloud9 the best defensive team in this league. They're unbelievable. 60% win rate on defense. Their record obviously impacts that significantly.
This was cheeky. You see how far MiBR contacted up before finally bursting into vents. Try to catch someone slipping. Try to catch someone asleep. There's just no one there. You had a deep alarm bot out from Celsius to make sure no one's cleared all the way through.
It was a cool delayed dive there. Out of heat, but doesn't catch anybody, and I think they're really playing it like they have a game plan against a double controller, against a Viper who's really trying to put that orb down and trying to hold on to mid. But Cloud9's foregoing that step entirely and often giving up the heaven.
Jake, once again, aggressive angle and rewarded.
What a flash.
I mean, what a shot. Just quite literally flawless out from Cloud9.
It's beautiful. Beautiful stuff. And that was definitely A pretty decent investment there if you're MiBR. So they'll go into this potentially missing some pieces of util.
One enemy remaining.
Everything perfect there. The way Zeppa's swinging on that backside wall to make sure that nobody's pushing Jake up where that new box is. Cloud9 have not lost a round on this half so far, 4-0. Withstood everything that MiBR throws you, even on these dangerous rounds. That eco earlier on, that one's dangerous. And then here as well, a stinger by that MiBR, honestly, it feels like, hey, Cloud9 did this to us. We got to be able to do it to you too. Anything you can do, I can do better, but in this case, it's just not working out. MiBR are struggling.
They are, and the truth is, I mean, they opened the first half in a very similar way. They looked like they were in trouble. They looked like they were on the verge of getting blown out. And then it did take a little bit of riding of the ship off the back of a timeout for them to make the half competitive, but they're going to have to replicate some of that. On this double duelist, aggressive go dive comp where they want to take space, where they want to apply pressure onto Cloud9's defenses, we haven't really seen that at all.
I really hope to see them give up some of the like diving in mid ideas, because that gets so easily countered by the comp that Cloud9 have with the breach and with the grav wells that Jake is proactively putting out there to catch those dives. I hope to see them continue to split B, because if Cloud9's giving it to you, you should go for it. But this is the reason why I think this is difficult. Cloud9 on that first half, yes, out of the timeout, MiBR is able to bring it back a little bit, but it was off of Cloud9 making proactive plays. Here's another proactive play, but instead it's a trade. And that does favor the attack. But how do they actually use this space?
I think Heat's in a great spot here. Okay, it looks like Zelsis is aware of it.
Look at
he may have caught a timing.
Zeppa also satcheled up top, so that's a tradable kill if Heat even goes against Zelsis. Definitely Cloud9 spread more thinly than they normally are, even though it's a 4v4.
And decisions for Heat. When does he strike? Where does he strike? Choose to bide his time.
Zeppa, one kill, he gets his ult.
And
he's going for it.
Oh my gosh, he hears everything! It's only one. Yeah, you got the ult, but it's gonna sit aside for the next round.
Interesting there too, he peeks off the flash and the footsteps. Cloud9 left to anchor early. Cosmic Divide popped both mollies as well on the other side of it so he could reposition. Spots that they're not out in those mollies. They can't get through this. Jake is gonna...
Huge out from Jake, huge out from Rooney, huge for Cloud9. Map point.
Nice. Match point.
MiBR has to be thinking right now how familiar this feels.
One enemy remaining.
They've been here over and over. Stomp after stomp.
Nice.
At this point, they're definitely have the worst streak outside of Crew in the league. And honestly, it has shifted so hard since that NRG game. And Bazooka talked about it. They just don't look like themselves. There's going to be the aggro again. He didn't see RGL right there, it looks like. But somebody else called it out.
RGL's dead. A little bit of pressure from all the way down on the opposite side of the map from FRZ. And the spike's just sitting there. They can apply so much for Cloud9 here to keep that back.
Oy, oy, oy.
Dude, I don't know that MiBR are gonna get out of this.
Player standing.
What a mess.
Flawless.
What a mess. Cloud9 13-5 against MiBR.
Destruction. It's just such a nice look for Cloud9 to be able to do this over and over, week after week. They definitely look like they're playing the cleanest Valorant right now. Against opponents that they should defeat, they soundly defeat. And compare that to Loud right now, who is struggling to put down some of these. Even though they're still undefeated, Cloud9 has improved so much. Curious to see if this continues on map 2, because we're going to Lotus next, and I think MiBR was thinking, hey, this is a map that we've gotten our 2 wins on. We've gotten 2 wins on this map. But this is going to be a struggle against Cloud9, who have just looked so good with that Leaf Neon too. I'm wondering if we see destruction again.
That very well may be on the cards again. 13-5 for Cloud9. Lotus on the other side of this break. We'll be right back.
Red Bull gives you wings.